Hey, what is up, everybody? I'm here to give you another SpongeBob SquarePants review. This is going to be Season 2, Episode 6. And this is called Bubble Buddy. Yeah, I'm doing another one today just because of the fact that I missed um, doing it yesterday. So I'm going to do another one today. Yeah, like I said, this episode's called Bubble Buddy. It came out the same day as the last episode, November 16th, 2000. Um, and this episode I actually thought was good. It wasn't anything. It wasn't like great. The last one was better, but I thought this was a good episode. So the episode starts off with the French narrator again, and he says that every day is a holiday for SpongeBob, even if he has to make one up. So he makes up Leif Erikson Day, which I believe is a real guy. Let me just look it up real quick. I meant to look it up. It actually is a real holiday. Um, Leif Erikson was an annual American observance which occurs on October 9th and honors Leif Erikson, the Norse explorer who led the first Europeans thought to have set foot in continental North America except for Greenland. It says October 9th is not associated with any particular event in Leif Erikson's life. The date was chosen because the ship, because that's the day it is. Restoration coming from Stavanger, Norway, arrived in New York Harbor on October 9th, 1825, at the start of the first organized immigration from Norway to the United States. Yeah, and it says, so in this episode it says SpongeBob SquarePants celebrates the holiday by wearing a horn helmet and a fake red beard. So that's it's actually kind of funny that they made reference to him. Kind of think it's weird that they made up the holiday. Um, well, I guess since we celebrate Columbus Day on October 12th, Leif Erikson kind of gets shafted on the wayside. Anyhow, but yeah, so SpongeBob kind of celebrated it, and then they said it was a made up holiday, which is kind of funny. So he says, Happy Leif Erikson Day, Yinga Hinga, Yinga Hinga Dogan. So then he goes over to see Patrick, and Patrick isn't there. He leaves a note with giant paper saying that he went to go get more giant paper, and says, P.S. Happy Leif Erikson Day, Yinga Hinga Hinga. So SpongeBob gets upset, so he tries to hang out with Sandy. Sandy isn't available because she went south for the winter. And he's like, wait a minute, but the water's fine. Um, and we see that it's snowing in her tree dome. Even though squirrels don't don't go south for the winter, they hibernate. So it was weird. So he sees if Squidward can play with them, but he pretty much doesn't want to. So he leaves a note that says no and yes. So then SpongeBob says, So SpongeBob wants a buddy to play with, so he makes one himself, and he tries a bunch of buddies. He tries Stick Buddy, Rock Buddy, Sink Buddy, but neither of them work. So he decides to make Bubble Buddy. Which is why this is called Bubble, which is where the name of the episode comes from. And he is all happy about it. So then he goes to the Krusty Krab so he can meet Squidward and Mr. Krabs. And then you see Squidward meeting with the customer, and he says, please, come again. And then when he walks away, he's like, when I'm not working. So then SpongeBob comes up, and Squidward's just like, how can I enjoy your day off when you come to work anyways? So then SpongeBob says, introduces him to Bubble Buddy, and, Squidward kind of makes fun of him. So he asks if he's going to eat anything, and SpongeBob then says, I'm not hungry, and Squidward's like, well, thanks for stopping by. And then he says, wait, take Bubble Buddy's order. He's hungry. Then SpongeBob's like, why would I do that? Then Squidward's like, why would I do that? He doesn't want to do that. He refuses to take an order for a bubble. He says that his money's no good here. And Mr. Crab then says, everybody's money. What are you talking about, Squidward? Everyone's money's good here. And it shows a bank robber with money. And then Mr. Krabs goes on the speech talking about at the Krusty Krab we serve all kinds, which sounds like more of a speech you would give to people with different races or cultures or something. So Squidward refuses, but Mr. Krabs says that if he doesn't do it, he's going to fill his life with misery and woe, even if he quits. So then he does it, and SpongeBob says, let me decide for you. So then he looks at the menu, and then he's like, ooh, it's all so good. And SpongeBob tells Squidward that he'll just have one of everything, so Mr. Krabs is happy about it, so he tattoos I Love Bubble Buddy on him. So then Squidward sits him down, and SpongeBob tells Squidward that Bubble Buddy's thirsty. So then Squidward makes a joke and says, how about a glass of our finest shampoo? And then SpongeBob says, SpongeBob actually wants to have it, so Squidward brings over the shampoo, and SpongeBob's like, Bubble Buddy likes bendy straws, so then he bends the straw. And then SpongeBob tells Squidward that Bubble Buddy says it tastes funny, and then Squidward's like, Mr. Krabs, and we see that Mr. Krabs is trying one of the customer's orders, and he says, think of the customer. So then he drinks the shampoo, and then Squidward's like, oh, silly me, I got the diet shampoo. So it was obviously supposed to be comedy. So then they kind of go through this thing where Squidward keeps trying to make different versions of Krabby Patties. He makes ones with cheese, but Bubble Buddy's lactose intolerant. So Squidward gets pissed originally and says, why don't you take these patties? And Mr. Krabs yells at him, so he goes to fix it. And then Squidward originally makes a joke saying, "What is he allergic to bread to?" And then SpongeBob's like, "Well, actually, he doesn't like the crust." So then he has to do it a bunch of different ways. And it goes through this montage of Squidward having to provide for Bubble Buddy, and then if he finally gets it right, and then he glows a gasket about it, and then Squidward says a normal way is like, if there's anything else you need, please hesitate to ask. Which I love that he said that. So then SpongeBob and Bubble Buddy leave, and he tells them that the money's on the table. So then Mr. Krabs leaves, and then Mr. Krabs says, see, Squidward, the restaurant business is all about, being nice. And he says that the customer's always right, and he says, remember that, and you'll be successful as me one day. So then Squidward's sarcastic, like, oh, you're right, Mr. Krabs, I've learned my lesson. In fact, Bubble Buddy picked up the tab, and then we see the money, and it's bubble money, and the money pops, and then Squidward's like, at least they left the tip, and all the money, that smaller tips pop, and Mr. Krabs and Squidward are angry because they've been screwed, because they pretty much got gypped. So then SpongeBob and Bubble Buddy go to Goon Lagoon, which is the beach down there, and SpongeBob tells Bubble Buddy that there's a bunch of stuff to do down here, and then the surfer dude comes up that we see. He's like a recurring character throughout the series, and he says, dudes, bury me. So then SpongeBob buries him in the sand, and SpongeBob goes to get cotton candy and tells Bubble Buddy to dig him out. So we see Bubble Buddy standing there, and the tide starts to come in, and he's like, and the guy tells him, don't just stand there, dude, the tide's coming in. So then obviously we don't see what happens with him yet, but we'll find out later on in the episode. And SpongeBob then takes Bubble Buddy to the bathroom, and a bunch of people are waiting for him, and SpongeBob tells this guy randomly, my friend's in there, and he's like, congratulations, but he doesn't really mean it. He just kind of doesn't, and they show a montage of stuff that Bubble Buddy's been doing, and it shows SpongeBob, and it shows Larry and other people lifting weights, and SpongeBob comes over and kind of dances with them, and he tells Bubble Buddy to start shaking it, and he says, shake that bubble butt. So they actually thought that SpongeBob was calling them fat, but really he was just telling Bubble Buddy to shake his bubble butt because he's a bubble. So, and that's what his butt's made out of. So I thought that was actually kind of clever by the SpongeBob to kind of go make that joke. And then there's this really famous guy that pops up. I think it says his name actually right here. Grubby Grouper. I don't even know who he is. I think he's supposed to be somebody that's really famous down there because all the teenage girls came up. Pearl was one of them, and they were like jizzing in the pants about it. And he shakes Pearl's hand, and she's like, "Oh, I'm never gonna watch this flipper again." And then SpongeBob has Bubble Buddy shake her hand, and it ends up being completely clean, so it's like it never happened. So she gets upset. So then they cut back to the scene where Bubble Buddy's in the it's like a party pretty much too in the bathroom, and they've been waiting for 2 hours, and it's at the point where they're suddenly calling cotton candy and everything, and one of the guys loses it and says 2 hours is long enough. So he opens the door, and he sees that it's Bubble Buddy. They didn't know they were actually waiting for a bubble. So then they're like, he kept us waiting for a bubble, and then everybody talks about all the trouble that Bubble Buddy has caused, and one of them was the surfer guy, and he says, "Dudes, he made me experience high tide." We see that he died. He is now an angel. So he starts laughing, and he's actually a dolphin, kind of, I would say. And I actually kind of like that they went back to it, and they kind of made us see what happened to him. So I thought that was good. Then, what else happens next? So everybody wants to wreak havoc, and Mr. Krabs is like, "Let's tip something over." So they tip over the lifeguard post, and everyone's is just gonna go beat the crap out of the lifeguard. But then Squidward says, "Let's not waste this violence on him. It's that stupid bubble. It's SpongeBob and that stupid bubble of his." So they want to pop the bubble, so they pull out a bunch of needles, and we see that SpongeBob and Bubble Buddy are tanning, and SpongeBob doesn't really know what's going on at first, so he asks, "Is this one of those sewing circles?" And they're like, "No." And Mr. Larry says that bubble has to go, and SpongeBob thinks he's talking about going to the bathroom, so he's like, "Well, thank you, we already took care of that, but thanks for the concern." So then Pearl's like, "No, we mean go, as in," and she shows an example by popping her gum. So then SpongeBob gets concerned, and he asks why, and Mr. Krabs is like, "You and that bubble have been nothing but trouble." So then SpongeBob tries to escape by using Bubble Buddy like a balloon so they can like fly away together, but Bubble Buddy's not too heavy. So they just don't really go very far. So then Squidward's like, "Enough seahorsing around. Give us that bubble." So everybody starts chanting, "Pop the bubble." And SpongeBob is like, "No, you can't. He's not just a bubble to me. He's a friend, and I love him." And he asks everybody if they've ever had a special friend. So everybody kind of goes through it. Mr. Krabs talks about his nickel money, and everyone kind of talks about stuff I don't really know what it is. Somebody had snake eyes, which was kind of funny, and boo-boo keys. And seeing this, everyone being emotional like this, they thought, well, if this is a special friend of his, we can let him stay. So SpongeBob's, we think it's gonna go in that direction, but instead, I guess Bubble Buddy annoyed them so much, they still want to pop him anyways. So then they take SpongeBob and toss him, and Squidward gets ready to pop Bubble Buddy with the needle. They do it in slow motion, and you see SpongeBob go, "No!" And then eventually Bubble Buddy comes to life, and he grabs Squidward's hand before he can pop him, and then he says, "Hey, don't I get a say in this?" So then he tells SpongeBob that he'll see him later. Things are getting strange around here. So then a taxi made out of bubbles, a bubble taxi pops up, and he gets in it, and he says to SpongeBob, "Happy Leif Erikson Day," and then Squidward's just like, "He's alive." No, because we actually didn't think he was alive, because this was the first time he actually spoke, and everything that he was saying was through SpongeBob. We thought SpongeBob was actually the one saying this stuff. So then SpongeBob's like, "Yeah, of course. How else would he be able to tell such funny jokes?" So then everybody else kind of leaves and like, "Oh, okay, this is fine by me." So then SpongeBob gets emotional, saying, it feels like it was just this morning I hold his bottle," like he's a parent. So he's like, "They blow up so," instead of saying they grow up so fast, he says they blow up so fast. So he gets emotional and he runs off, and he leaves a couple of bubbles behind. And then Squidward sees one of the bubbles, and he's afraid because he thinks now all bubbles are real. So then Squidward says, "Hi," really awkwardly to the bubble. And then that was the end of the episode. Overall, this episode I thought was actually really good. I actually not as good as the Big Pink Loser episode, but I thought this episode had a lot of comedy behind it. Um, and especially the scene where Squidward had to keep pampering a Bubble Buddy, I thought that was hilarious. When they kept all the trouble that Bubble Buddy was causing. And the scene when they went to pop the bubble, and that emotional scene where everyone was kind of talking about their possessions that they had had since they were young. I thought that was really good too. And overall, I just thought it was a really good episode. And yeah, I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, and obviously Bubble Buddy coming to life at the end was kind of like one of those plot twists you didn't see coming. So I thought they did good in that regard. And then obviously the scene when the Leif Erikson Day stuff, I thought that was actually kind of nice for SpongeBob to pay tribute to him. That was really cool. So overall, if I had to rate this episode, I'm probably going to rate it a 7 out of 10. I thought it was really good. Oh, and I forgot to mention, make sure to subscribe to the channel because I'm going to be uploading a lot of content over the weekend. So please make sure to subscribe to this channel and my CM Brothers channel as well, because I post a lot of stuff on there as well.